Hi everyone, this is Chem Interview. Here we usually talk with the most prominent and influential representatives of chemical science and industry. Our today's guest is Dr. Dietmar Martin from the Gene Center and Department of Biochemistry at the Ludwig-Maximilians-Universität in Munich. You are a lecturer and you have a lot of interactions with new students at the university, and you probably have a good impression of who all these people who study biochemistry are. My question is, what qualities should a person have? What should they be interested in order to fit well with biochemistry?
It's absolutely mandatory to be intrinsically fascinated by chemistry and biology. I mean, if you have no fascination for living things in general, then it's hard, because you have a 40 hours a week, 20 hours practical course, 20 hours studying and lectures. So it's very time consuming and it takes a long time, such a study program. And therefore you need a lot of motivation, intrinsic motivation, need gifted hands. So chemistry is a practical discipline, much more than other disciplines. So you're pipetting a lot, your experiments have to be quantitatively. But as I said, you as a student nowadays, you can be quite optimistic about the future, since there are a lot of research topics around, a lot of companies working on interesting things, not only vaccines, as I said, antibody therapies, gene editing stuff. So this is exciting. These are exciting times right now. So it's not anymore an exotic field like it has been 30 years ago when I started to study. It's nowadays, I think it's at the core of science at the moment.
That's true, but still I think sometimes people have a false impression about what biochemistry is. So when it comes to the students' motivation for going into the biochemistry field, which mistakes you could warn against?
What is definitely not true is that you will earn a lot of money for granted. So there's definitely easier ways to get a position if you study something else. Probably if you study economics or law, especially if you take into account that many students spend 8 years, 5 years until they get the master, and 3 additional years for the PhD. So for this long education period, the salary is not so good. This has to be clear. I mean, but still, it's okay. It's fine. I mean, that's also a pro. I mean, and I mean, it's not the positions are not so safe, for example, as in other areas. So only if you can reach the professor level, and also if you come into a company, it's not so sure that you stay there for the next 30 years. This has changed. The pro is, for example, if you stay in a science-based job, either at university, academia, or in a company, you can do actually more or less what you like to do, what you really want, what you think is interesting. Many companies nowadays, they do interesting research, sometimes really at the level of a Max Planck Institute. It's really the same level of expertise that's there. So it can be quite fun to work in such a company that is maybe world leading in a specific antibody therapy or something like that. So this is really nice. I think it's the job. If you're in science, no day is similar, so every day is a bit different. So this is nice. So you have to be a little bit frustration resistant, resilient. So you don't get results every day, positive results every day. That's not the case.
Many people who are graduating from school today and want to go to study biochemistry, they think that it would be too hard for them, that they need to be at least literally geniuses, and of course they also need to know mathematics very well, otherwise they would not belong in biochemistry at all. What would you say about that? Is it true?
Now, let's start with the second aspect. So that's definitely not necessary. So the level of mathematics that you have to know is quite low. I would say you don't even need the level of mathematics that you reached at the end of high school. So that's kind of level you need. For some, I would say what you need maybe later on is programming skills. So programming in R, for example, but it's not mathematics. So a genius, yeah, no, I don't even think that you need to be a genius, since I guess 95% of your time is hard work and 5% is imagination and creativity and yeah, things like that. Yeah, so and since you're also working in a team, one can talk. I mean, it's a team effort, typical. So, I mean, of course, for some discoveries you have to be a genius, but for the most of the discoveries, I think just normal, well-educated mind. I think if you know the theory well and you're kind of prepared, people say if you have a prepared mind, you will find new discoveries. So even without being a genius, I would say. Yeah. But when I speak of myself, I find laboratory work not really hard. I mean, our students enjoy it and time flies, and it's not the same as studying books or being in an office and typing things. It's a creative way of working.
Are there any recommendations that you would give yourself if you were a young student right now?
To be courageous is of advantage. It's good to try to move to a new field, not staying too long time in the same field. So if you switch from PhD to postdoc, it's good to go to something. I think a good advice for the students from my side is don't look too much at the marks you get in your studies. So many students they think a lot of their marks, and but actually this doesn't influence the career chances too much. And don't worry about the marks and about the exams too much. I mean, if you have one free day and you could watch exciting science videos on YouTube, or you could prepare for your exam, I would always watch the YouTube video about the Neanderthals and their connection to Homo sapiens instead of trying to draw chemical formula repeated times. So it's actually really not so important. I mean, you have to pass the exam, that's for sure, but I know only I don't know colleagues of mine who will look at the marks if they decide that the student can do a practical course in their lab or can do a master's thesis. They more rely on their personal impression of the student.
Could you maybe give some advice to the freshman students and also probably some high school students regarding literature? Because there are so many books, journals, reviews, and if you are not particularly experienced yet, you just draw in this tons of information. It would be great if you could give us some advice here.
Of course, I mean, when you start at university, you will have the biochemistry books by Voet and Stryer. These are the two major textbooks that are used by many universities, biochemistry textbooks. And there's another one, Ledinger. Ledinger is a bit more compact. Then, of course, you can also have a look at popular books, popular science books. I like also books of Israeli professor Yuval Harari. Yeah, writing on the evolution of humans and the future of humankind. And this is also something I think a must read for a biologist or interested natural scientist. Yeah, sure. Richard Dawkins. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. The Selfish Gene. Yeah. Of course, this is also good literature.
You have been studying biology and biochemistry related topics for a very long period of time. What would you say? Is there an external force that helped life to organize and develop? Is it possible at all that such complex systems like human cells self-organized into what they are now?
Good question. Yeah. I just read two books of my colleague Harald Lesch, and one book is called, I have it here in my bookshelf, Über Gott, den Urknall und den Anfang des Lebens. That's his first book, and the second one is on the evolution of life, plants and animals. And yeah, I read a lot about Einstein, for example. Einstein said, Gott würfelt nicht, meaning so he managed to find out this theory about the universe, and still he was not sure if God exists or not. But he never ruled out that God exists. And I'm also an agnostic, I would say, that meaning I think we cannot prove that God exists, but we also cannot disprove it. But I think we don't, it's not necessary, in my opinion, to believe that God has shaped evolution. I mean, we still have some gaps in our understanding. For example, the biggest gap is probably how life began. So inorganic material assembled in a way of self-organization, as you mentioned, and the first cell appeared. And as you know, there's some experiments that have been done by Greg Venter, for example, creating a mini cell, a mini bacterium from scratch and things like that. But still, we are far from being close to shaping or designing a cell in our laboratory. This is a big step. So, but I think it's all organic chemistry at this point. I'm more and more now, since evolution diverged and we have now human beings on our planet, and since we have brains and we have thoughts, we have emotions, we have feelings, now I think we're coming to another point, how are emotions designed, how are emotions built in how they are wired in our DNA. This is something completely not understood. I mean, our genome is just made out of 25,000 genes, but we have billions of different pictures in our brain, in our mind. We can smell thousands of odors. So there's a lot of interconnection between molecules, and we are really far from being close to understanding these things. So nobody can tell you exactly how the mood stabilizer, the psychiatrist gives you, how it really affects your biochemistry in the brain. This is more like trial and error. Such simple things we don't know. So I'm careful. I'm humble. I would say, if God exists, yeah, würfelt nicht. Yeah, this I would say, yeah. But I have no idea. In science, I don't think about God. In private life, yes, and I think having such a picture of some phenomenon that in somehow can influence our life is interesting, but all attempts to look at such a phenomenon scientifically failed so far. So we have no idea how such a design principle would look like. And I think the evolution of our species on our planet is so well understood, and we know really where the molecules came from. So what I don't think is what some people in the US say, intelligent design is not taking place on Earth. This is something I would doubt. So this is something I also teach the students, that I think really we have natural selection and evolution and adaptation, and we had 4 billion of years until now. For me, this question is still open. Let's put it like that, yeah.
Thank you very much, Dr. Martin. It was very interesting to talk to you.